Yo, Descendants, Augiesaint here, back with another first Descendants build guide. Today we're going to having a look at Gley, updating her for the Axiom planes because that's pretty much the only thing there is to really do in the game right now. And I do have a fancy build, as you can see in the background. I call this Pop Goes the Bandit. If you know, you know. It's a really fancy build and it's actually really strong in small areas and if you are playing with people. So it does have a little bit of caveats to it. But you can see it is pretty insane. The range is massive. We ended up getting over 4 billion damage in one of the defense missions where everybody goes to level. So if you just matchmake into those and people kill like 1 or 2 mobs, it sets off like this chain reaction where you can just go ahead and blow up mobs like crazy. It's really fun and a nice new addition to Gley. I did try it out in the Axiom planes. It's not that great, so I wouldn't recommend it there. It excels in smaller areas because what happens is when mobs die, they spawn little orbs of Gley from her passive. And then you go ahead and blow those orbs up. But those orbs don't really have a big explosion range. There's a massive range on how far away you can trigger it, but the explosion range of the orb itself is not that massive. So if mobs aren't really clumped up and close to each other, then it's not going to work so well. So I wouldn't recommend using this build in the planes. For that, we're going to use just our normal gun build. We have made some tweaks to it, but we're mainly going to be using that with the new rocket launcher. The rocket launcher does really good in the planes because it does take care of the ships. And if you kill the ships before they spawn the minions, it does actually progress the mission a little bit faster. So if you guys are interested in any of that, we'll have it all in the video. Check the timestamps down below. And also if you want to drop a sub on the channel to say thank you for the videos, I appreciate every one of your beautiful faces. Without further ado, let's hop straight into the guide. First of all, let's have a look at the explosive life build. This is the massive AoE one, the skill-based build that I showed you guys. We will be running the Explosive Life Transcendence module. Now, how this actually works is you do need to pick up 2 orbs before you can actually go ahead and press this. And then when you press this, it will explode all the orbs on screen. So that means any orbs that are spawned, even if your teammates go ahead and kill enemies with some quality of life changes through Gley, they can now also spawn the life globes or the blood globes, whatever they're called. But this will go ahead and explode those and cause like a chain reaction because it will kill mobs and they'll spawn more orbs and you can go ahead and just blow those all up. Just make sure if you can't press it right away, that's because you need to actually run over some of these to get, I think you need at least 2 of them before you can actually go ahead and use the skill. And then having a look at the rest of the mods, we're using Focus on Non-Attribute for some increased damage as well as cooldown. We do go for skill simplification for increased skill power, like a massive amount, and negative MP since Gley doesn't use MP, so it doesn't really bother us. We don't need to run double focus mods because you can see the cooldown on this is already down to a 1.5 second cooldown. And we're also running multi-talented, so whenever you use a dimension skill, your cooldown goes even shorter. This is a dimension skill, so once you proc this, you can pretty much just spam this non-stop. So once you get some enemies dying, it is really fast and does massive amounts of chaining AoE. And then we run Stim Accelerant as well as increased HP to give us a massive HP pool, making us very tanky. Then we do have skill expansion as well as maximize range to give us the crazy amount of range that we do have on this. And then we're running some more cooldown with nimble fingers and MP conversion. And then the last mod we use is non-attribute amp just to give us a little bit more damage boost, even though we don't really need it. Because I mean, if you have a look at this, this is 1666 skill power modifier. And it's on like less than a 1 second cooldown once you go ahead and proc multi-talented. So you can really drop out this non-attribute amp for anything else that you want, but we couldn't really think of anything else that we wanted to fit in there. But it's up to you. Maybe some defense or anything else that you feel like you need. And then we have a look at her reactor. We're using a non-attribute dimension reactor with some non-attribute skill power boost and some skill cooldown just to make it even more spammy. That's how we managed to get that crazy amount of cooldown and then some little bit increased damage. Like I said again before, not that you need it, so you can really change it out to whatever you want. But that is how we decided to run it. And if we come down to our component set, we are using the Enlightened Mage set just for a massive amount of skill power, as well as a non-attribute skill power stack that goes up to 84% non-attribute skill power. So that's just a ton of extra damage. And then for the rolls on these, for Gley, it doesn't really matter. Just the max HP, the MP doesn't matter at all. The defense over there is good, and then nothing over here really matters except for like the defense and the HP on this one. So for Gley, it doesn't matter even if you have a really terrible mage set. And then we did actually mount a launcher to this because you can use the restored relic as well as the exterminator to go ahead and kill enemies in AoE to kind of proc them and get them ready so you can explode them if you are playing solo. However, if you are playing in a group, then when your allies kill enemies, you can go ahead and hit your explosive life. As it can chain reaction, blow everything up. But it is nice to have a launcher in your pocket because of the AoE, and you can just quickly generate a bunch of orbs if you need. I will show both of these weapon builds once we get over to Gun Gley. But for now, let's have a quick look at the Arche tuning for the skill build. Just some standard stuff, grabbing skill power. As you can see, we get as much skill power as we want. We don't really need any of this HP or MP. We kind of just have to pick it up to go to all the different nodes. So we come to across to the right like usual, grabbing skill power. going all the way up, grabbing the cooldown, and going up the right here, grabbing skill power, and then we choose non-attribute cohesion as our mutant cell, just for some increased non-attribute skill power. So there's the overlook of the Arche tuning tree. And then having a look at the inversion reinforcements, we are using the Arche circulation for cooldown. And then we do have chill focus rounds just to go ahead and proc the passive of the enhanced focus rounds in the attribute tree whenever we do shoot at things like the mini bosses. And then down below we pick up firearm control mechanism for when you are using a weapon, just to give you some increased multi-hit damage. So that covers everything about the skill AoE Gley. Now let's have a look at the gun mobbing Gley. Looking at our module setup, you can see we have got our increased sensory down to a 9.8 second cooldown with a 10.1 second duration. I like to have it at this little bit of a longer cooldown. Most people get it down to 7 seconds by just adding a second focus mod. But the reason I like to run it like this is because you don't have to think about when you press this. Like if you have it on a 7-second cooldown, but you have it on a 10-second duration, you're kind of overlapping. So every 7 seconds you'll be pressing it and you're losing out on 3 seconds where you don't have to press it. And it is an animation, so you know it's like a little bit of downtime. That's why I prefer to run it like this, because this pretty much, as soon as it's up, you press it because your duration is about to run out. You can see it's like 0.3 seconds between them. So that's why I like to run it like this. So don't think about it. Just press it whenever it's up and you won't be losing any uptime with it like that. Having a look at our modules, we do run Walker Tightrope. This is really optional. Like you barely ever get use out of this, but there's literally just nothing else for us to go ahead and put there. But like I said, if you want to get the lower cooldown, change that out for another focus module. So this one is completely up to you. You use whatever you like. I just slap on Walker Tightrope because sometimes the bosses get you down to like under half HP, and then you will be getting that nice little damage bar from there. So up to you, optional mod, do what you want with that one. Having a look at the rest of them, we're running Focus on Dimension, MP Conversion, and Nimble Fingers just to get all the cooldown we need. We have Battle and Stamina for a little bit of duration plus HP, and then some more increased HP over there to max out our HP. Shot Focus for increased damage with firearms. Then we do have Skill Extension and Maximize Duration to get the duration we need. And then lastly, run HP Collector just to keep us nice and healthy. This is on a 2-second internal cooldown. So every time you defeat an enemy, you get 9% of HP. It's really strong, especially when you're out there just mobbing stuff out in the plains. You'll pretty much never go down. Super tanky and a ton of HP regen. And then for trigger modules, I tried out a bunch of trigger modules. I tried out full Arcade Jacket by like reloading and then keep using my sensory after we reloaded. I don't think this works because we technically don't consume MP. I thought it might, but it just seems like the damage, once I use any of these mods, makes my damage go down. Did a bunch of testing in the lab, and I just couldn't find one that actually did consistently more damage. I tried out Kuiper Hollow Points as well. And this just gives you a ton of recoil, so it adds recoil, and the damage as well seemed to be less. I'm not sure if all of these mods are bugged with gun builds or what's going on, but I just couldn't find any of these trigger modules to be working to actually increase my gun damage consistently. There was outlier runs where like one time I got a little bit more damage, but for the most part, consistency wise, I was getting more damage by just not using any trigger modules. Now, if you have a look at a reactor, we literally doesn't matter what reactor you use, just get cooldown and duration up, max that out. So you'll get the same stats. We're at 9.8 cooldown with the 10.1 duration. The mounting, anything else doesn't matter at all. Coming down to our components, we're running 2-piece Annihilation for the skill duration and then 2-piece Shell Crusher for the fire rate. Now the stats on these don't really matter either, just getting some HP and some defense over there is nice overall, but doesn't really matter what you end up with. Just get the 2-set Annihilation, 2-set Shell Crusher for fire rate and for skill duration. And then most importantly, the weapons. I choose to use the Restored Relic. Now there's a bunch of weapons that are actually really good on her, but these are the 3 that I have been using the most out in the plains, and just anything else for that matter. Restored Relic is amazing AoE. As you can see, the rolls on there, we've got 3 fire rate cores, 2 chill cores. Then for the stats, we've gone multi-hit, chill, and explosive attack. I pretty much built this with a focus on multi-hit, the same as what we've done on the Exterminator. So we come and have a look at our mods. We are running 3 chill mods: Chill Enhancement, Chill Priority, and Chill Circulation, just because we can fit all of them. And a little bit of increased radius just to go ahead and wipe out AoE really fast. And then we're using Multi-Percussion Sight and Multi-Piercing Sight for that increased multi-hit damage, as well as multi-hit chance. Action Reaction Rifle Reinforcements for the increased explosive attack. Then we do have Charge Amp for increased damage as well, and Fire Rate up, obviously. We want to have as much fire rate as possible. And then we pretty much take the exact build and we put this on our Exterminator. We just changed it over to fire. Let's go have a look at our Exterminator. You can see, if we have a look at the cores on there, you can see we have fire rate and fire up with, again, multi-hit chance, multi-hit damage, fire attack, and explosive attack as the rolls, because the weapon does roll with innate fire. So does the Restored Relic, but we use this quite often in the Void Erosion Purge. That's why I just kept it on our chill build. And as you can see, the Exterminator has a lot more fire, and it doesn't really matter out in the plains. You can kind of use whatever element you want. Now, if I have a look at the module setup, I'm still busy catalyzing this, so there's a little bit of work to be done. but it's basically going to be exactly the same as my restored relic. We're running our 2 fire mods, with our last fire mod going to come up there, and then charge amp going to be our other last mod over there for that increased damage as well as the negative crit. And again, exactly the same stuff, most of the multi mods, action reaction, rifle reinforcements, with the radius and the fire rate. So exactly the same as the relic. I'll show you guys the relic build once again. There it is. So copy that and then just change over all of the elemental mods over to fire mods. And then lastly, we have a look at my last dagger. This is kind of my universal last dagger. I have 2 last daggers. I use the other one for Void Erosion Purge. That one is just built a little bit differently, but for this one, this is my use for everybody dagger. So this one has fire attack, 2 firearms, and then 2 fire rates on the cores. And then for the rolls down below, we have crit hit and crit damage, and we have weak point damage and firearm attack. And if we have a look at our modules, running fire rate up for increased fire rate, concentration priority for the increased critical hit damage. We're running action reaction and rifle reinforcements for the increased firearm attack. And we do have fire enhancement with heat circulation. I still need to go ahead and level this one up. We do have mental focus since this is for Gley, so you can pretty much keep your stacks up at all time with infinite ammo. We have half aiming and weak point sight for some increased weak point damage, and then better concentration over there just for some increased firearm crit damage. Now if we have a look into the Arche Tree, we've gone for as much firearm attack as possible, as well as we've actually leaned into the multi-hit chance and multi-hit damage, since we are building our restored relic and our exterminator, as we are building our weapons mostly around multi-hit because it is pretty powerful. And then grabbing this little HP node down here is really powerful, as it's only 2 points and it gives you 42.8% increased HP. But don't pick up any mutant cells, as this is just more damage. There's not really any good gun mutant cells, so for now this is the Arche tuning tree we'll be using on Gun Gley. Then having a look at our inversion tree, we pretty much use the same thing except we switch over to strike point amp, giving you multi-hit and weak point damage. We're using the firearm control mechanism down below for also more multi-hit on multi-hit damage chance, all that kind of stuff down there. Then we do have one of the attribute rounds to go ahead and proc enhanced focus rounds, since this is a gun build, so we'll be shooting this and gaining the stack all the time. But that's going to be it for the Gley build. So we covered the explosive Gley and the gun Gley. Let me know what you guys think of the build. If it helped you out, please drop a like and a sub on the channel. It helps me out so much. If you want to see me testing all this stuff live, come on over to twitch.tv/Augiesaint. I'm streaming most days and you can catch me there trying out all these things and seeing how everything works. Thank you so much for watching the video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Augiesaint out.
Run free and dive into the sky. Hear the